fraternity. So basically, I am a CA, CIAC/CAP. So as a part of my C certification, I am part of one of the group, WhatsApp group, and I got to know about this from that group.
Wow. Wow, that's, WhatsApp group does help us. Sometimes it's overwhelming to get so many messages, but trust me, it helps. So, the welcome to the session, Rahul. And sorry, I said
Thanks.
Rahul Pujari, but it's Pujara. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, Chandrasekhar. Hi, Vamshi.
Hi, Julan. How are you?
Yeah, Vamshi, ready with some hardcore questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Chandrasekhar, can you unmute yourself? You want to introduce yourself? Maybe not. Okay, so we are excited to begin this session of Let Us Talk It webinars. Just to let everybody know, this session is going live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and please WhatsApp your friends, colleagues, family members who you think would be benefiting from this, because this is the robotic processing automation. This is a trending thing right now. So, and we have an extremely, all-in-one guest speaker with us who knows a lot of it. So to get that advantage from the speaker, please join in the session. And so we'll get started, I think. And welcome everyone for this yet another session of Let Us Talk It webinar. And today's topic would be using RPA in auditing. The age of automation is here and the world is moving towards it. And in this session, know how a robotic process automation can turn your audit function into an intelligent audit, and also learn how RPA leads to quality enhancements, risk reductions, and time savings with increased risk intelligence. And to give this session a real spark and the needful insights, we have with us Raghu Baddu. He is an expert in SAP security and GRC and has a vast technology background and an urge to keep up to date with the latest trends and technologies. In his 23 years of experience, he worked with more than 100 clients in crafting the right security and risk management strategies. He's good to know to the community with his user-friendly articles, tweaks and tricks around SAP security and GRC automations. He's also a mentor in few of the startups and designed 8 to 10 solutions around this space. He's a postgraduate in business administration, a certified information systems auditor, certified data privacy solutions engineer. He additionally holds Security Plus, SAP Security, SAP GRC, Prince2, ITV3 Foundation, and few other technology certifications. And already, my throat is drying up saying his certifications. Just imagine he has done it all. And while speaking to him, before this session, he's saying that this is nothing. He's going for some more certifications as well. So I said, do you play or do you work all day long? So he said that he is a serious stamp and coin collector. So he is everything what means something. So absolutely honored to have you, Raghu. Over to you.
Right. Thanks, Julan, for the quick introduction. So in fact, I added a slide of mine wherein I thought I'll speak a little about myself, but then you covered it, everything. So I think I can just skip the slide. Thanks. So a very good morning, good evening to everyone. I know we have people from multiple locations, so wherever you are. So whether it is morning, evening, or night. So hi everyone. So today we are gonna discuss about uh, robotic process automation. So this is I would say this is a buzzword today. A lot of people speak about RPA, artificial intelligence, machine learning. A lot of new terminologies have come up in the recent past. Like if you look at what IT is 10 years ago and what it is today, uh, we have entirely different, and every business has to transform from what they are to the next level. So every organization needs to be basically have to be in that transform phase, which is going to be a continuous thing rather than a one time activity. So what we are going to see today is we'll understand what is RPA. I'm very sure at least 40 to 50% of the participants have a wrong assumption on RPA. So I'm going to take that out. I basically start with a basic introduction. There could be some people who don't understand what RPA is, also what bots are all about, all those things. So we'll quickly spend a couple of minutes on understanding what is RPA, what are bots, and then we will also understand what are the business benefits of using RPA, like why I should use, what is the reason of investing on RPA, what is my return on investment from a management perspective, right? From a business benefit perspective, we should understand what benefits additional return on investment is bringing onto my table, right? That is something that we need to understand. And we'll also understand various spaces where RPA can be utilized. Okay. And how well this can be utilized in the audit space. So this is one niche space wherein a lot of people don't even know that, okay, audit space is one area that really, the bots can help you in enhancing your, auditing capabilities and all, right? Then we'll also see few other success stories on, or kind of a case studies, like how exactly RPA has helped organizations in achieving certain, uh, uh, or kind of advantages what you have, how they have benefited, all this stuff, right? So Zulan, I think there are some people pinging on the chat. So you want me to address them, or shall we take it at the end?
At the end, please. Yeah.
Perfect.
And they are
Perfect.
just saying hi, Raghu,
Okay.
for now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So a very common thing, when you probably Google, the moment, I'm very sure when it was announced that, okay, we are going to speak about RPA, those who doesn't know anything about RPA might have quickly went into Google and then find it out, like what is RPA, what all things it does. Okay. So RPA is basically robotic process automation, right? Which basically accelerates your digital transformation. When your business processes can be automated using the readily available bots. Okay, so what kind of task can be handled by the bots? So basically, whatever the repetitive tasks that we are doing, like something like, for example, a data entry, or retrieving data from multiple databases, multiple sources, or updating Excel, the same task, or I would say the activities which are repetitive in nature, okay, can be assigned to the bots. So instead of you doing those activities, these activities can be assigned to bots, wherein they are available 24/7. We call them as these digital workers. Okay. So digital workers are the ones who can actually work round the clock, pick up any kind of task that you assign. All you need to do is you just need to train the bot on how exactly it has to perform that activity, and it continues doing that activity. Okay. So when you Google for robotic process automation, maybe I would say 8 out of 10 sites give you about the same explanation on what RPA is. and speaks about two different types of bots called as attended bots and unattended bots. So we have attended bots and unattended bots. So what is the difference between attended bots and the unattended bots? Okay, so attended bots are basically, we call them as a kind of a desktop automation. So wherein whenever you want to actually, maybe let me take one example here so that you understand it better. Let's say every day morning when I log into my work, okay, the first thing what I have to do is I have to go into 10 different websites, collect a lot of data, put it in Excel, make all kind of calculations in my Excel and send it to my management, right? This is an activity, let's say probably, for me to collect all the data, update my Excel, and then, send it to my management. It might take probably a couple of hours for me. Okay, so what I can do is, instead of me manually getting into all these websites, collecting all the data, updating, doing all kind of VLOOKUPs, and then doing the the table formats and all these calculations, simply I can run a bot which is on my desktop, okay, which basically triggers and then performs all these activities and give you the Excel back, and even it can send that Excel to your set of people whom you're sending this Excel every day. So what is the benefit in terms of business benefit is, the first benefit is that the same task what we are doing, or where I'm spending a couple of hours time to prepare this Excel document and send it to my management, I can get that done within less than 5 to 10 minutes time using the automation bots, right? But what is the difference between attended and unattended bots? Attended bots is where I have to manually tell the bot that go and do this work. Okay, so it's basically a partially automated bot. It's not a fully automated bot, right? But every time, every morning when I log in, I might be 5 minutes late or 15 minutes late. So bot will just wait on it. It doesn't identify that, okay, Raghu is running this every day at 9 o'clock. So let me run automatically. If I want that to be automatic, that is where I would basically choose unattended bots. Okay, so attended is something which is triggered by the person, a human. Unattended is basically which runs automatically in the system. So there is no humans supervision required to have this one. So you can schedule it to run at a specific period of time, and it runs. It can get all the information, update the Excel, and then send it to the group of people, right? So yeah, so this is perfect. So these are the common types of bots which people look at, but there is a little more than what these people say. Okay, what exactly you find it on the web, right? We have something called as a cognitive bot, okay, an autonomous bot, right? I'll give you a couple of examples on that also. So if you basically, if you're looking to automate majority of your activities today, okay, so basically these bots are segregated into three different areas. One is called as the bots that you can interact, which is called as conversational AI, which are nothing but your chatbots. So you can talk to your bots and then bots can respond. It can be a chat, it can be on your Facebook, it can be on your WhatsApp. So these are bots which actually works on specific scenarios. So you have to tell, okay, choose option 1, 2, 3, and then when you choose 2, based on that, it can trigger some the next set of questions to you, right? So this is basically a conversational bot wherein you can address a lot of things rather than picking up the phone and talking to people, creating the ticket and doing all those stuff. So the conversational bots can do all that for you. So based on like what exactly the customer problem is, based on that, okay, it can capture all that information, segregate the customer to specific level, and then if a ticket is required to be created in the system, it can create that. Then the second type of bots are basically the one that we discussed, which are called as intelligent bots. Okay, people call them as intelligent bots, but for me, they're just the bots. They are not really the intelligent bots. The reason is they don't have the ability to think on something and then adapt to it. Okay, they are not intelligent enough. If you say, okay, do this, they'll just do that particular work. Okay, which are nothing but your attended and unattended works. Okay, so these are the ones which basically helps you to execute certain activities automatically in the system. Okay, the third level of bots are wherein, okay, there is certain level of machine learning that you can embed into it. Okay, these are basically the bots that have the real intelligence in them based on specific uh, machine learning criteria. I would say it need not be a machine learning, but then you can we can call them as a trigger based bots also. Okay, or we call them as sometimes these can be autonomous bots. So let me give you a simple example. Let's assume there is a, a support guy, L1 or L2 support guy, who is monitoring a server. Since I'm a SAP guy, let me pick a SAP server. Okay, so the support guy, what basically does is every day, at least 3 times or 4 times, he monitors each of the servers to see whether the servers are up and running, whether the database is up and running, whether there are any table spaces which are full. So there is a monitoring thing that this person does. In case if there are 10 different servers, he has to get into log into each of the server. He captures all that information. He puts that in probably an Excel or some other tool and submit it for review, so that, okay, at any point of time you can know if there is some problem with the server. So it's basically monitoring the system, right? But what I can do is I can have certain autonomous bots. Now, if you look at, there are a lot of database providers which are also coming up with a lot of autonomous databases. Oracle is one such database. Okay, so Oracle has recently launched a database called as autonomous database, wherein what happens is once in a day, the database will be restarted automatically for a few milliseconds. Okay, it takes just milliseconds, and whatever the logs that are available, it captures all those logs and automatically fix those issues. So you need not do anything manually, right? So similar way, what you can do is when you are designing a bot, okay, you can add certain intelligence to the bot, wherein based on a condition, bot can trigger a specific event. Let's say if my database server is down or my SAP server is down, I can basically identify, okay, that this particular server is down looking at the logs. So what I do is I basically design a bot which looks at the logs every 5 minutes, and as soon as it identifies that one server is down, it takes immediate steps. It can execute certain scripts automatically, and then automatically get the server up back. Okay, so what happens is you're reducing the monitoring time, monitoring efforts. So if I have a person who is monitoring my system, basically he might be monitoring the system once in a while. It is not continuous, not 24/7, right? At regular intervals you can monitor, where in bots you can specify that, okay, whenever there is an event, immediately you perform this activity. So you can specify those kind of event based triggers, and use bots for that particular activity, right? So these are basically the bots which basically learn from the previous solutions. Whatever solution we specify, you can keep on training these particular bots, and then automatically these bots can learn and adapt to a solution automatically, okay, which we call as learning from the exceptions, right? Now, why RPA? Good, RPA performs a lot of activities, but why RPA? Okay, the first reason why we need to get into RPA is we are in the age of automation. No one is really interested to sit and do 9 to 6 job, right? If it is the repetitive thing, then probably at some point of time you would probably you'll never love your job, so you probably look for a change, right? You want to do something better than what you are today. So these kind of activities which remain same for ages are the ones that can be automated using the bots. The first reason why we go for bots is basically since every industry, every organization is adapting to one or the other automation possibilities or exploring the lot of automation possibilities. Even we need to move, we need to get into the same space. So that is one reason why the first starting point I would say would be a robotic process automation or using the bots, right? And when it comes to the auditing space, okay, when internal audit is coupled with RPA, what we can do is a well-defined third line of defense, which is also called as an intelligent audit, right? I'll give you a couple of case studies here also, right? Now you might ask this question. So there are lots of big four companies which are doing internal audits. They have well-defined processes, right? They have a lot of certified consultants who does all these things. There are a lot of ready-made solutions that they bring on to the table to perform the audits and all, right? How robotic process automation is going to help me out? So if you really understand the thin line, internal audit is a function wherein I would say out of 100 activities that you do, 10 or less than 10% activities of the activities that probably your internal auditors look at. So we call this as probably sampling, because every transaction cannot go through this internal audit scanner, right? An internal audit function basically helps you to streamline your processes. So the operating procedures, your standard operating procedures, your policies, your procedures, all these things are something that are framed by your internal audit function first, and then they ensure that we follow that particular processes, which we term it as compliance. Okay, so all the times as an organization, we need to ensure that we are in compliant with these guidelines that are set up by our internal audit function. And these guidelines could be structured based on your local laws and regulations. For example, GDPR, right? And Canadian government has got their own data protection act. India is coming up with their own data protection act. Every country is doing that now without. We should thank COVID for that, wherein every company understood that there are other countries which are actually looking at our data, right? So this morning when I looked at one of the blog, it says the CAM scanner, the little app that you install to scan documents on your phone. Every document that you scan on CAM scanner is stored in the local servers of XYZ country, right? Everyone knows which country is that. Now just imagine you have a critical document, a confidential or a business critical document, and on a specific urgency, you have to use your camera to scan the document and send it to your boss, right? What happens? So today, organizations have identified that the data privacy is more important, right? Now that is where internal audit function is becoming more stronger day by day. So as soon as there is a data privacy policy that has come in, from one specific country, your internal audit function will relook at those particular policies and see if your company is really doing business with that country and what kind of controls you have to implement within your organization to safeguard yourself, right? So internal audit is not something which is kind of a cakewalk, and they have to reinvent themselves every day. They have to identify what additional things that they have to get into the system to ensure that they are protecting the organization. So what happens is today, if you look at whatever the activities that your internal auditors or your employees who are in this particular function are performing are majorly manual tasks. 99.99% of the activities that your internal auditors are doing are classified as manual tasks. Now, what is that robotic process automation bringing on top of this is wherein you can have a better controls in place, better processes in place to ensure that these activities are performed. And the other advantage is that you can define, as I said, you can define specific trigger based rules, condition based rules, wherein you can trigger the audit automatically of those particular activities. Let's say, for example, any transaction which is greater than 10,000 US dollars, okay, should require an additional approval. That is what your internal audit documents or standard operating procedure says. Okay, this is basically to reduce the fraud. Perfect. Now, what happens being a manager? I have an authorization to create a purchase order. Okay, and then release the purchase order and also process a payment. Now this is greater than 10,000 US dollars. The payment is as went in for approval because my system is well streamlined. So there is a workflows defined. So it went into one of my manager who has to approve, this particular payment release. Now the good thing is that I know my manager's username and password. So what I do, the moment I create everything, I process the payment, I go to my manager login, I log in with my manager username and passcode, and then I'll approve it. Right. So what happens is, this is an activity that your internal audit team cannot identify, in real time. Right. It is not so easy. This probably could be a simple example that I'm saying, but similarly, there are lots of internal controls that can be applied. This is one such example for you to understand it easily. Right. Now, what is the difference between a normal typical internal audit function and an internal audit function coupled with RPA? And in an internal audit function, what I do is a postmortem. Right. Maybe I notice that this guy has logged in with this username, password. If I track the host names, okay, I'll identify that, okay, both the logins have happened from the same host name. And then I'll say, okay, why this has happened. I do all the postmortem and then probably, revisit my standard operating procedure, makes little more changes or look for some alternative solution wherein the same person is not releasing. But just imagine I have an intelligent RPA added to this particular process, wherein I define a control, okay, which says whenever there is a transaction happening in the system, okay, I tell my bot that, okay, the payment release as well as approval should not happen from the same terminal ID. Right. So the bot can trigger in the system. So I can train my bot on these kind of controls easily and then ensure that, every transaction that has happened in the system is well controlled, which is nothing but adding a third line of defense. Even this is common in our day-to-day life. When let's say I have got a bank account wherein I add a payee, it says you cannot release the payment in the next 24 hours or maybe 2 hours, for example. Right. So that is the difference here. If you see from my bank account to the example that I referred, okay, in the bank account, it is coded. Right. It is hard coded that 30 minutes you cannot release or 1 day you cannot release. But after that, you are allowed to release, which means if I know the password of my manager, I can just go ahead and release it on the next day. But in my manager is out of country, so I'm happy I can use his username and password the next day also, right? So like this, if you look at, we have developed close to 150 controls on the internal audit function itself, right? Which basically doesn't mean that you are stopping each of the activity that the users are performing, but we are setting up one level of defense. So what happens when there is a defense? When your employees knows that someone is watching, okay, they are pretty careful in doing any kind of mistake in the system, right? So that is another way to protect your business from the potential frauds, right? And if you look at, out of my knowledge, there are many companies which have started implementing this particular journey. Okay, so from a traditional way of doing IA function, they are moving on to something called as a predictive model, uh, something called as a cognitive intelligence. Cognitive intelligence is nothing but the one that I've told you, adding certain intelligence to your bots. Okay, certain rule-based intelligence, I would say. I think that is the right term to be used. So you can have certain rule-based intelligence added to your RPA with this. So what exactly the final outcome leads to quality enhancements. So your internal audit would be far better than what it is today. The quantum of risks will be reduced to a greater extent, and also you'll save a lot of time. And not to mention, it's basically increased risk intelligence, right? So again, for those who are pretty new to RPA, how exactly this bot works? Okay, whether it is attended bot, unattended bot, or a rule-based bot, or a cognitive bot, whatever you call, whatever you term, what we basically need to do is first we need to tell the bot on what exactly the process flow is. Okay, and this is not limited to any specific solution like Oracle, SAP. It can be on anything. It can be on a legacy system. It can be on a third-party system. Like it can be your homegrown application. So anything is possible. Okay. The beauty of RPA is if you can log in and perform something, your bots can also do that. But what we basically need to do is we need to capture the entire process flow. Okay. If you are doing end-to-end business process, for example, you can do all those things, and then you have to assemble all these skills to the bot. You need to tell the bot that this is the first step. If I go back to my example, the first example that I gave, I have to collect data from 10 different websites. So I need to tell my bot that, okay, go to website 1, capture this data, update this Excel sheet. Go to website 2, capture this data, update the Excel. And then whatever formattings that I have to do, I have to tell my bot that this is how you should actually perform this activity. And then we need to mimic it and repeat the same activity. Then we run one particular end-to-end process and check whether everything is perfect. And from there we activate that particular bot. And it all depends how you want to actually do that. So this is a typical attended bot or unattended bot process, right? Now, in case if you want to add intelligence, this is where you have to write specific rules for your bots, wherein you can say, for example, if my sale in any given region on any given day, if my sale in a region is more than this, then a notification should be sent to this person. Or if my stock on hand, whatever the stock I have today, is less than this particular level, I want to trigger a purchase order automatically. Okay, so I can define my reorder level, wherein bot can automatically create a purchase order and send it to approval to the respective department head, right? So whatever the bot, as I said, whatever the bot you're working on, you have to follow this process and enhance your bots further, right? Now, what is that you can automate? As I said, maybe today topic is audit management in the internal audit or the audit space, but RPA can be used across, uh, the departments. And it's not limited to audit. It's not limited to finance, or it is not limited to one specific activity. So it can be used under, your shared service automations, your financial transformations, wherein it can automatically create your vendors. It can automatically create your purchase orders, GL allocations, period end activities. Everything can be automatically performed by the bots. Then you have customer service automation, wherein you can track a lot of onboard your customers automatically. You can perform the returns. You can work on the sales quotations. All these activities. Then your operational automations, wherein the master data maintenance activities. All these things can be automated. Right. So this is one area where quickly I'll give you a quick example on how it can be used. Okay. So for one of the client, what we recommended is, so there is one particular material where they want to find how many cases have been raised on that particular material defects. Okay. Based on that, they want to identify in which all machinery this particular material is used, and also track what all batches are produced on those machineries, and drill down it further to the dealers and then to the distributors. Okay, so if one particular screw, for example, or a bolt is not working, is causing some problem, because of which there is some other issue, the end-to-end tracking is possible with the bots. So your bot can go and track everything and give you a list in an Excel saying that this is how it is. Right. And when it comes to the audit management, what the first advantage, when I ask any auditor, internal auditor, what I hear is extracting data is from various sources is a big task. Right. So extraction is the major work. Then compiling the data is another major work. Sending questionnaires to the audit samples, right? The people or the vendors or customers, we call them as samples, right? When you have to send certain questionnaires and understand how exactly this function is, how exactly this is performing, that all this is a manual task. You have to do everything manually, collect the responses back manually, and then process them, collate them, and then you have to do a lot of stuff manually, right? All these activities can be completely automated using robotic process automation. And the other advantage is that they give you 100% accurate information out. When your input is right, then the output is accurate than anything else, right? So with this, what is that you're achieving is 100% accuracy in your audits. Every audit that you do, you achieve 100% accuracy, right? So what it does, basically, whatever activities you are doing, first is, as I said, your manual and repetitive activities can be completely automated. So in an audit function, whatever the data that you are collecting from various sources, be it a set of Excel documents, be it from your ERP software such as SAP, Oracle, JDE, anything, and then your vendor portals, then your customer portals, then your dealer portals. any data which is required for you to perform your audit can be completely automated. Now you can get everything into one location, one central location within no time. Now, what is that we are doing with this audit? Now you have big data. Assume you have, let's say some 20-30 GB data. And this data for me to process, okay, in Excel's or certain custom databases is not an easy task. Of course, there are a lot of solutions available, but still not every company can afford that solution. One such solution is SAP Audit Management, right? Implementing audit management itself is a big task. And I don't know how many of the people can easily understand, the screens of it or the functionalities of the application. Now, using your traditional tools itself, whatever tools you are using, let's say MS Access, Excel, whatever tools you are using to perform your audit, all this high volume of data can be automated. It can synchronize all the data, connect all the data points, and give you a final report for you to evaluate and then take appropriate action. So from your function, for using bots itself, you can trigger certain alerts to those particular business functions. Okay, you can integrate your email, you can integrate your chat, you can do all these things, right? So what is that it is basically helping is, it is accelerating your work and increasing your productivity. And as I said, these are our digital workers and are available 24/7, no holidays, no weekends, no long weekends, right? And whenever you need some help, they are basically there for you to help. So how RPA can generate business value? As I said, better use of resources. So your resources are not sitting idle or doing the same mundane activities, the same repetitive activities, and it increases the efficiency and reduce cost. Okay, instead of, if I have to process large amount of data, okay, I need not recruit 10 different people, right? Instead, I can use few bots which does that activity, and efficiency is increased since they are 24/7, and you don't need to pay them every time, right? So that is where it reduces your cost as well, and it is 90% faster than performing anything manually. And the output is excellent, higher quality of output. And with cognitive based approach, with a rule based bots, the tasks that you perform will be more efficient than what you are doing with with either manually or with automated and semi-automated bots, or attended and unattended bots. So what it does basically is it adds more business value. So especially in the internal audit function, what you are doing is you are moving from a statistical sampling to full population testing. If there are 100 transactions that are high volume or high value transactions that are happening in my system, I can audit each of the transaction. Any high value, you define what is high value to you, and everything can be completely, validated before it moves to the next stage. That is what it brings on to the table. So this is one of the success story that I want to quickly speak on. Okay, the problem is there is very complex audit review process. There are 8+ applications. Each of the application, there are about 12 documents that we have to review, and there are about 30+ manual checks. Right. So typically, if you have to audit on a sampling basis also, if you take a sampling data and then do this in all these applications, reviewing all these 12+ documents and doing all these checks, it would take, probably few days for you to perform this activity. an internal auditor who has got the rich experience in doing this, who understands the applications, who understands what to audit, how to check, would probably take, maybe a couple of weeks to perform this entire activity. Wherein the same activity can be performed in days with RPA. So with one of these customers, what we did is basically we deployed 10 plus attended bots. Okay, this is I would say a little old slide that I've picked up. Okay, wherein we converted this into a cognitive bot. Okay, an intelligent bot, to probably put it in a simple way, wherein bots can understand, segregate the data which has got high volume, like specific customer, all those things, and that data can be manually given for review. Okay, the low volume things can be automatically validated by the bot itself. The high value things will be assigned to a auditor. So auditor will receive on his email saying that this is particular transaction that you have to manually review. So wherein it has that intelligence, wherever it sees that there is one specific what is a parameter which is not passed, right, for that particular transaction, it immediately sends it for a manual review, right? So with this, what we basically did is the entire reduction time in handling this activity is reduced to greater than 80%, and the audit time reduced from 2 weeks to 2 weeks, from 10 to 12 weeks of time. And at the end, better customer satisfaction. Customer is so happy because once the first time when we deployed this, we told that customer that it would not be a sampling anymore. It is a full candidate, testing going forward, right? And from that point, we have enhanced the function multiple times. As I said, it is something that we have to reinvent. It is not a one-time activity. So if I actually go the entire path of a robotic program, understanding the customer requirement is probably a simple activity. Customers say, I'm doing this activity manually. I want something to be automated. So what is that you can do? So immediate thing what we say is we can use bots, right? But what we probably say is let us evaluate what all things we can automate in your entire business process. So discovering, evaluating, and implementing is probably a quicker thing. Maybe in a couple of months you can do that, but continuously operating the bots, reinventing the processes that can be, or I would say redefining the processes or fine-tuning it to make your audit function more better is what it makes a difference, right? It is not an on-the-shelf application, or it is not a bot that you can just bring in from some store and then say, okay, you do this activity. It is a continuous thing that we have to keep on doing, and then basically deploy it and then tell that this is how it should actually take, right? So when you want to basically get your internal audit function into your transform it with the robotic process automation, 3 things that you basically need to consider is first, define your vision and strategy. Okay, most of times when customers come to me, they'll say, okay, my finance function has implemented RPA, so it's an organizational requirement to implement it in every department. So my finance department or my procurement department is implementing RPA. They said they are automating 7 processes. I want to automate 10 processes. Okay, to probably get a certificate of appreciation. That is not, that is nowhere going to help you in utilizing or maximizing the benefits in the in this function. When you look at RPA is different, a little different when it comes to internal audit. It is not the same or not that easy, as the people perform in the other departments or the other business functions. For a finance guy, what it is, what does it matter? It is just, probably automating some activity, but we have to add intelligence to that in an audit function. So first, define your strategy. Define why you want to use robotic process automation. Identify the right spots where automation can really help you, right? And then you have to build the infrastructure. So what you need to do is you need to identify the right tool. Okay. Maybe I'm not really getting in depth about what all tools we have, but for people to understand, Automation Anywhere is one application which is one of the best application in the industry, which can be utilized quickly, and then you can build bots. Then you have UiPath, then you have Blue Prism, then you have SAP IRPA, then you have iRob. Then there are hundreds of other individual players in this space who can develop a bot. Whoever has some knowledge on developing it can develop a bot. But what is the right application that you have to use? Right? You have to look at the ongoing maintenance cost. At any point of time, your maintenance cost should not be more than your resource cost. Let's say if there is only one guy working in your audit function and then you get 10 bots, then it would be a overhead to your organization, right? And on top of that, you have to really spend a lot of time in understanding the right case studies from various organizations, and then develop an operating model, and then implement those automations in whatever areas you have identified. So these are the 3 steps that you have to consider when you go for automation, right? So this slide also speaks little about like what is the span of control. What is that I have to pick out of my audit function. Your audit function might have multiple things. You probably might see low value processes, high value processes, high value activities, problem processes, and a lot of stuff. So if you have 100 different functions, 100 different processes that you are running on in your internal audit department, it is not that you can pick everything. You cannot make it 100% automated on day one itself. So first you have to really look at, pick up the top 5 areas where you see that there is certain human activity which is involved, which can be assigned to a bot, where you can have a better way of managing it. Then you have to basically do a human judgment, like if this activity really requires a human to work, or it can be assigned to to the bots. Because see, bots, unless you train, they cannot judge, right? So when specific activities requires a judgment, right, wherein we have to understand, out of your experience you can say, yeah, this is not right, but maybe day one your bot cannot, right? So till your bot is trained enough to that level, you have to ensure that you are not assigning that to your bot. And the data flow, right? What data should come in, what data should go out is something that you basically have to identify, and then give it to the bot, right? Very good. So we discussed a lot on what RPA is, how RPA can change, transform your audit function and all. But remember, when you implement RPA in your audit function, at the same time you have to audit your bots as well. Okay. When your other departments are implementing robotic process automation, from an audit standpoint, you also need to identify certain processes to audit your bots. Okay. No one said that bot is 100% accurate. It just does whatever the way you do. If you train the right way, it will do it in the right way. If you train the wrong way, it does it in the wrong way, right? So what you basically need to do is you need to have a proper governance in place, right? To audit your bots. you have to define your right framework to audit your automations using bots, whatever, whether it is automated, semi-automated, or fully automated. And then you also need to structure specific controls in this space. You have to have the relevant controls, or I would say adequate controls in place, so that you review each of your process which is now assigned to a bot. And also you need to understand the exception management and look at the business continuity. So these 4 are key things to basically audit your robotic process, automation based process as well, right? So with this I am done. I think I'm on dot with my topic. So back to you, Zulan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Raghu. Yes, the question floor is open. Please, in the question answer session, okay, there is no open question. I
There is
think.
I see one question.
Yeah, how secure RPA process?
How secure RPA process is, it all depends on how well you define. So end of the day, RPA is also an application, right? So how do you define your network infrastructure? How do you define your, your security on your infrastructure is what it matters. But whatever activities it is performing, in terms of executing the bots, only specific people can execute it, not that everyone can trigger it. Let's say if I create a bot, if I deploy the bot on my desktop, only I can execute the bot. Others cannot execute unless it is structured in a way that it is allowed to the other people also to execute the bot. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, we have Sharma GCS. It was his question. So maybe you're known somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You can unmute and comment also how you felt.
Hi Raghu, this is Sai.
Hey Sai.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for the great presentation on RPA. So I have a couple of questions actually. The first one is like, how can we choose between the wide range of RPA products? Like, how can we choose between Automation Everywhere or Blue Prism or UiPath based on our application, like based on our requirement?
Okay. So how you can choose is, see, every product has its own pros and cons. Okay. There are few advantages in Automation Anywhere. There are few advantages in Blue Prism. The right solution is basically where you need to look at what kind of automation you are doing, what level of integrations you have in the in your bucket. Right. If you see that, okay, you have huge level of integrations that you want to do, then Automation Anywhere gives ready-made integration points for you to integrate with the application. So it is not that you have to build from scratch. So let's say if I want to integrate my application to Salesforce, okay, there is a ready-made integration point available for me in the Automation Anywhere application. And Blue Prism, structuring your automated, semi-automated bots, or attended and unattended bots is pretty easy in UiPath and Blue Prism. Okay. So out of these 3, Blue Prism is pretty old as per my knowledge. But then now market leaders, I would say UiPath and Automation Anywhere are the ones which are leading the market today.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And my second question is like, for example, consider whether it is an attended bot or unattended bot. So like, is there, so for example, if we need a requirement to integrate with any CRM, like whether it is SAP or whether it is Salesforce. So is there any way that our bot runs in the background? Like, for example, so if I want to create a bot for an automation testing of an web application, is there any way that it won't show to us and it will run?
Yeah, of course it can do that. So let me give one example. Okay, I'm not sure how many of you are on SAP. So we developed one bot basically which collects all the authorization errors of the user. So typically what happens is whenever you are working on SAP, when you see an authorization error, you capture that error screenshot, raise a ticket, send an email that goes to a separate team. They basically analyze and then identify what authorization is missing to you. Then they send you that particular authorization. You have to raise a ticket to get that authorization, which will be approved, and then only it is assigned to you. So this entire process would take probably, on an emergency, it will take at least 4 to 5 hours time. If it is not emergency, then it might take 2 to 3 days also, right? So what we did is we automated this entire activity for one of the customer who has got close to 10,000 users. Okay, what happens is as soon as there is any authorization error, the bot in the background will, even user doesn't know that there is a RPA behind. So the bot goes and collects this particular authorization error, automatically filters, identifies what authorization should be given for this missing access, and sends an email to the user within 2 minutes time. User will get an email on his box saying that you tried performing some activity. This is what it is missing. And you basically need to have this particular authorization. If you want this authorization, click on this link. With a single click, the ticket is created, and then it follows the approval process, right?
Yep.
So these kind of automations are 100% absolutely possible with RPA. That is what I'm saying. So it all depends how you define your strategy, how you define your bot. You should know the right automation spots, when you want to develop something in, using automation anywhere, or for the sake any bots.
Okay. So actually we created one bot for SAP invoice automation. So there, like, we are literally the bot is logging into SAP, and we can see the process. Like so what you just said, like, by using the automation everywhere, so it can be, the process can be in background, that a user or the person who is operating that bot, for example, consider it is an attended bot. So who is operating that bot won't see the how it is processing, right? So it will be completely in background.
Not exactly. Need not. Yeah,
Okay.
it can run automatically and give you the output back. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So
Thank you.
it all depends on how you define your steps. If you want to see what is happening at each of the step, you can define that. Okay, it notifies you at each of the step, or it can be completely automatic as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Raghu.
Welcome.
Hi, Raghu garu. Chandu.
Hi, Chandu. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very good presentation. So actually, my question is, so when coming to RPA, so I listen like more buzzword in UiPath. So UiPath is a leading in RPA thing. So can you tell me one major advantage, so which completely changes the statement? So UiPath is the leading one, like then automation anywhere. So as you said, you worked in both automation anywhere and some UiPath. So you know some advantages there, like difference between them. So say some.
Okay, so to be frank, if you ask me now, Automation Anywhere is coming up with a cloud-based offering wherein you don't need to have a control room installed separately on one of the systems. So everything, so it's a pool of bots available on the cloud, and you can use any number of bots as per your requirement. So currently what is happening in UiPath or Automation Anywhere is you have to define each, so you have to tell, let's say one business function is using one bot, that bot performs that activity and looks for the next activity, correct? It's the same everywhere. The way you define it is the same. Now, what is happening is every business function in your organization will spend a lot on, having individual bots rather than, now even UiPath is coming up with the same approach wherein the bots are available on the cloud. Okay, so across your organization, these bots can be utilized. You can prioritize like A class, B class, and C class. And the tasks that are defined as A class, bots will first go and pick up the available, or bots will pick up the A class activities first, then goes to B class, then goes to C class. Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't see any such huge difference. Like I mean, I'm not a fan of automation anywhere as such, but then if you look at the way things are moving on, I feel there are a lot of advancements in automation anywhere than UiPath. But in terms of stability, I would say UiPath is much more stable than automation anywhere.
Okay, like coming to pricing section.
Both are considerably okay. Automation anywhere and UiPath are at the same range. Only SAP IRPA is too costly. That's a transaction based. These are bot based. So how many bots you need, how many control rooms you need, how many bot runners you need. That is what it matters when you go for UiPath or automation anywhere. But it is a little different in SAP IRPA.
Okay, yeah. And my next question is, so like, do you have any community license in Automation Anywhere, like free license to use?
Yes, yes, it's available.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have two questions. Sharma, he says, thank you, Raghu, for the wonderful session. It's important to have RPA process during COVID. Okay, and Vamshi asks, what is the reason to take automation anywhere into consideration in auditing as a best choice, but why not UiPath when it's a good competitor to AA?
I probably would see UiPath and automation anywhere. Both of them are same for me. In terms of the capability, they're not too different. Okay. As I said, see, every product will have certain advantages when they get into the market. They have to obviously compare themselves with our competitor. So there could be few advantages with UiPath, few advantages with automation anywhere. But maybe I never did that statement that you have to use automation anywhere for internal audit. You can use anything. Even Blue Prism is good. Hope that answers your question.
Vamshi, does it answer your question?
Hello. Yeah. Yeah, that answers. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay, we have somebody, Z, only Z. Can you please unmute and introduce?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is actually Pierre. I had to log in, so I just put something in there in order for me.
Oh, you don't want your name to be visible?
No, this is Pierre. My computer shut down on me, so I had to log in quickly. So I didn't want to take time typing my full email out.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I have one question, Raghu. So
yes,
I just went through this Googling automation anywhere. It's saying that it is like based on scripted language, scripted automation, like we write the code. So what type of language we need, like what type of code we write for automation anywhere?
What type of code you can write?
Like for UiPath, we just use blocks, drag and drop blocks, visual designing kind of thing. And for automation anywhere, like how do you develop the bot in automation anywhere?
So it uses this, when you actually develop the intelligent bots. Okay, let me basically tell you. When we develop certain intelligent bots on top of SAP, the entire logic is in SAP, wherein we use certain XML services to trigger those particular services. The actual logic happens in the other system. So if you have an application that is running on Java, your complete logics can be developed in Java, and you can basically tell simple conditions is what you can define in the automation anywhere. When you can say, okay, if A is greater than B, then do this, then execute this particular XML service or a API, a REST API or a SOAP, right? If it is true, if then conditions can be defined, and then accordingly you can define your RESTful APIs, and then trigger those particular things.
Okay, so it basically runs on XML services and APIs.
So your API is correct.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
It can be XML services or APIs. That is the best approach, so that your bot doesn't take the entire load of processing and then doing that. So that is how you can trigger it easily.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? If not, then I think we have come to the end of this session. But thank you so much, Raghu, for this insightful, informative, and absolutely in-depth webinar session. Thank you for your time, effort, and your time with us. And just before closing, I want to say that we will be having a webinar again tomorrow. The topic is super exciting. It's how to manage uncertainty, and we will be having with us a guest speaker who is the trending YouTuber influencer. So that's what it's right now. Very, very, the influencers are real influencers these days. So he has, if you can check him out, his name is Mudit Yadav. So I've checked him on YouTube. He's a fantastic speaker. So hope to see you tomorrow. And from next week, we will be starting our Let Us Talk It youth session every Friday. Super excited for that, where there will be a couple of, a group of teenagers, a group of young adults who would be talking about the topic would be generally revolving their things, what they are doing. For now, we have the topic as how they are managing time. So that's during this COVID time. So it's very exciting. So that's the webinar we'll be having from next week. And we are excited. Thank you all the attendees for joining in today, and hope to see you tomorrow, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks, Julan. Thanks, everyone. And